And you always, when you say that you're going to know something about his business, it's because it was in the public domain, not because somebody stole it and gave it to you. Most of the guys that own these companies don't know what's in the fucking public domain or if it's not in the public domain. We want to acquire microbreweries in the northeastern, western United States, wherever it is. Wherever he is, that's where you want to acquire. Doesn't make a shit where it is. If it's in, Peckerhead, fucking Kansas. That's where, okay. Because you're there, right? The numbers that are in the public domain. And you always, when you say that you're going to know something about his business, it's because it was in the public domain, not because somebody stole it and gave it to you. Most of the guys that own these companies don't know what's in the fucking public domain or if it's not in the public domain. I see that, you've been having accelerated growth last 3 or 4 years. That's exactly what we're looking for. And we would be very interested to talk about taking a position. You don't say sell out a majority, you just say take a position. That's how you start the conversation. And he'll either say, well, we really haven't thought about it, which is a fucking lie. But anyway, we really hadn't thought about it. And, it's, everybody wants... and if he says, we have 4 or 5 more years of growth built in, I understand that. But even the most remote sales starts with a conversation. I used to say that. People like that. Even though it was against my personality, even the most remote possibility of a divestiture, because some of these guys don't like the word sale. Even the most remote possibility about a divestiture. I know that's a big word for some of you guys. And especially the YouTube fuck, starts with a first conversation, okay? So far you've done, they think you're a professional. You trick fucked them. You trick fucked them in a professional way. And then he'll talk or he won't talk depending on where he really is. Or if, like most people, you got to think about it because most people can't think that quickly on their feet. That's why it's better if you can verify that they read the fucking executive summary you send. And let me back up. Before the meeting, I'd have Tim, or not Tim, but whoever I had at that time, call to say, email it to the assistant and say, could you ensure that maybe put it on the top of his reading pile or whatever it is. And one assistant to another assistant, we'll get some results. We've got kids that actually go by, depending where they are, and actually hand carry it. And like in the Wall Street, the movie, cigars, all that shit works. I still don't understand why, because it's not my personality, but it does work. It's how you get in, because he gave me the entree that he was already had an appointment. And all that should take no more than 15 minutes, maximum. Unless, like the guys on the phone the last couple of days, by some stroke of irony, you happen to know everybody that ever helped him in life. But if you do, then milk them until the legs fall, until the udders fall out off the cow. And once in a while that'll happen. Or once in a while you'll have a director that knows the guy from his days at Anheuser-Busch or some crap like that. And use everything that's legitimate. And then sometimes like Dennis Emir, the Babson guy, who's probably the Babson graduate school is probably as good, got one of the top 10 alumni for business schools in America. I mean, the people that come out of that school, I mean, he's got a fucking gigantic amount of people to call. And then he, it's easier, or your daddies went to school together, you went to the same school, and all that shit works. And if you have it, use it. But it's not necessary. Some of the guys up there, didn't go any place, and some of them went to Harvard. Some of them have no degrees, and some of them are PhDs. So that part doesn't matter. So don't be intimidated by that. And the problem with LinkedIn, I think it's 99% great vehicle. But the problem is, I see from you kids, is when you find a guy or a gal that fits your parameters, you get too awestruck by their fucking resume. Just remember, they wouldn't have their fucking name in there if they didn't want another job. If they didn't want a directorship, they wouldn't be there. I know guys, my contemporaries, that they wouldn't touch LinkedIn with a barge pole, as they say in this country. Fuck, what do I want that shit for? Fucking morons contacting me. So you're on Madison Avenue and she's wearing a skirt up to here and it's 4 below zero. She's there for a reason. It's not to make small talk. So everybody on LinkedIn, is there for a reason. So don't be so awestruck by their resumes. I spot check the resumes, or I don't anymore, but I used to spot check them. The easiest place to spot check, the guy supposedly got an MBA at Columbia. I mean, it takes 5 minutes. Checking on Sam Jones, Graduate School of Business, MBA, Columbia, 61 or whatever the year is. And if that's a no, next. That's it. There is now if it's really 62 instead of 61, I mean some bullshit. That's okay. But I mean, no, we never heard him or her. Then it's next. And the same thing. They don't normally list if they got sanctioned by the Security Exchange Commission on their LinkedIn. But after talking to them, like Cures had a couple where they got in trouble, but I wasn't named in the indictment. Next, I wasn't named in the indictment. That means he had a good lawyer that copped the plea that he wasn't named in the indictment. That's all that means. I wasn't named in the. I forget how you phrase it to me, Cure, but that was next. But he's big hitter. Next, and then normally that person has already referred 3 people to you, one of which might be the accountants, and he only missed jail by the skin of his ass, like Weed Man. He happened to get out the alley and jump on his motorcycle and head off into the weeds, ahead of the law. So next, I mean, there's too many people on there. I haven't done this in maybe a year, but I printed out pharmaceuticals. What did I put? Because I wanted to see what ARIA, I printed out and I had, 600 people or 508. I mean, I didn't refine the search. I didn't go through it. But I mean, there's a lot of people. And you put in oil and gas, I mean, there's a gazillion. There's no reason to find a shortage of people for your dream team. And again, the most important is chairman. So I'm back with the guy in his room, and and guys that have built these things up with their own hands and sweat of their brow are proud of him. And some of them really do want the purchaser or acquirer to take care of, etc. But my experience is if they want that, it's up to a limit based on who's getting the money for the company. They may want you to keep them on and not fire them, but they're not going to give them 1/4, not 1 centavo of the sales price. Not one motherfucking penny of the sales. And it's the whole difference between the QLA model and everybody else. The QLA model is from the chairman down to the guy that sweeps the floor, gets money. And I've seen acquisitions that they forgot the previous owner in the first week because now they got options in the new deal. They couldn't remember the asshole's name because money talks and bullshit walks. And if there's a potential to make these people better off than they are, not even wealthy. I mean, I'm talking about the lower people. I mean, they appreciate that. Both Clinton and Trump are saying that, or Trump is, Clinton's not, is saying something to the effect that the GDP is growing at 1% or less in the last 10 years, and that this is the worst GDP growth since the late 40s, which I think is true. The Federal Reserve and a few other people have said, and this in the United States, and that the average wage is the same as it was in 1983 or 1988 or something. So that means there's been relatively no growth or zero growth. And in some parts of the United States, negative growth. And so when you step into an organization that's got 500 employees or whatever, if that's what they're used to, they're looking to anything that's got upside. And a lot of the people that you're in this business or in any business that you're going to go and look to acquire are just happy with a $10 million brewery, making a certain amount of money and feeding all his personal expenses through the business, which is the way it goes, and they're just happy with that. Okay, so now he says, well, I have to think about it, and he may say he wants to talk to his wife. He may want to say he wants to talk to his fellow board members. If he has an ESOP, which is an employee stock option plan with his employees, I'd have to talk to the ESOP representative, which are all legit. Okay? If he says shit like that, that's positive. That's positive. And that's about all you can accomplish on that first meeting. Okay? You don't get out your agenda and read, are you going to take back such and such? You want to know if they're now the fact that he's seeing you is that he's open to the idea. Now, when there's a second meeting, then he's not only open to the idea, he's thought about, what can I sell this hog for? And that's when you really, then you start putting on the harder press. So I'm going to go to that meeting. There's a next meeting.
We're leaving that first.
No, and I'll say, no, because you will have asked him some questions. He said he's going to have to, get the information. I said, I prefer one-on-one. I'm back in the northeastern United States in 3 weeks, or I'm here looking at opportunities for the next 2 weeks. I can be back next week. You want him to know that you're looking at other opportunities. He may say, well, who else are you talking to? I said, well, that's confidential. I wouldn't be telling people that I'm here. So I'm sure you can appreciate that I can't, or I won't tell you. And you get back to him anyway. Absolutely, So now it's a week, 10 days later, you haven't heard from him. Hi, Mr. Jones, and now the receptionist will put you through because you gave her a card or some bullshit. And hi, this is Johnny Peckerwood. We met 10 days ago. Oh yeah. I'm back in the Northeast. We're looking at a lot of opportunities. I'd love to come back and visit with you to see, what thought you've given it. Now, if they've given no thought or they're not interested, there won't be a second meeting. There won't be. If they have given a thought, they'll say yes. And you were going to touch base with the ESOP representative. And he'll say, I'll tell you what that happened. What the result of that was when I see you. And then he may, ask you to come to lunch, yada, yada. And then, although I don't like lunch and breakfast meetings because I think they're a waste of time, if they want you to come to lunch, then, then you go. Now, depending on your own presentation skills and depending on your own ability, how numerate you are, numbers-wise, see, Alex can go to these meetings on his own because he knows who's on first. Some of you that can't spell numbers should bring a director along, preferably your CFO and or industry expert. You need somebody that knows how to talk turkey. Not turkey meaning about the industry, the deal. And if you got a guy that was at Anheuser-Busch with him 18 years before, whenever, that's the guy you bring. Whether he's the numbers guy, he would be an industry expert because he was at the brewery with him. That's the guy you drag along. Because all of a sudden, it's just like that guy I talked to. I really wasn't leaning that way, but now I feel at home and blah, 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 blah. And so now you're back. Same boat, come the day before, same thing. And have your little speech ironed out with your guy that you're bringing, or gal, whoever it is. And you come early, same thing again, and and he may or may not have somebody there. If he's an iron-fisted guy, he started the company, he owns all the stock, there may be nobody there because he's used to, for all these years, making his own decisions and not interested in anybody's fucking opinion. There's plenty of those guys. And if when you bring somebody that from Anheuser-Busch or whatever, the conversation will take on a new life, and just like the conversations I had. And then you just sit back and keep your fucking mouth shut and keep your agendas up your skirt and don't show anybody, Kira. And then there'll be a lull in the conversations. Oh God, I'm glad you guys got along. You know each other. What are your feelings? And then it'll start unpeeling like an onion. Well, we might consider a minority stake, yada, yada. Oh, we might live with that. What do you have in mind? And probably at the segment, well, let me show you around, And I've looked at I didn't look at any microbreweries. I looked at big breweries, big fuckers. And when I was going to university, Anheuser-Busch, they stopped this because of student violence. But they used to open up the breweries Friday afternoon from 2 till 7. And you could go on tours of the breweries and get free beer.